Valentina, did you know I'm officially adding firefighter to my resume?
Oh my gosh, Hebe, is this a podcast exclusive career switch announcement?
Yeah, I guess I'm a firefighter because dealing with fire drills at work is like a part of my job.
Oh, girl. that's not, in the sense that
Yeah, I know. But shout out to actual firefighters.
you just need to think of this as like your character development arc.
I always love a character development arc, but does it ever end?
Of course. After you get enough experience points, you will level up. Trust me.
This video game is harder than I expected. How did I end up as player one?
Let's circle back to that.
Hi there, welcome back to another episode of the Let's Circle Back podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Hebe.
And I'm Valentina.
So, in our previous episode, we started a long awaited conversation on Gen Z and gaming. We intentionally left out about half of our conversations. Think of the last episode as our way of providing some important context before today's topics.
No, exactly. As a reminder to all of our listeners, this podcast is not corporate affiliated and all views are our own.
Clock it. So, if you are connected to the internet and have streaming services at home, chances are you have seen TV adaptations of very popular video games on feature pages, sometimes without you even knowing. And every year there just seems to be more and more of these adaptations, which speaks to me that people love them. I mean, if you look at recently, there's HBO with The Last of Us Season 2 that just finished. There's Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, and 3. There's also the Minecraft movie this year with Jason Momoa and Jack Black. Detective Pikachu was a big one. Uncharted with Tom Holland. Very excited for the new Super Mario movie in 2026 and slightly scared for The Legend of Zelda in 2027. And if you just broaden it up, League of Legends is also a really good example of success, arguably beyond just film in areas like fashion, cosmetic, and music. So, I'm sure not everyone has played League who listens to our podcast, but there's a good chance that you have seen Arcane on Netflix. It was super big. It had, what, 9 Emmy nominations, 6 wins. I believe season one was number one on Netflix in 52 countries at the time. And season two was like the most expensive animated show ever made at 250 million. It was so big that the cosmetic giant Fenty Beauty did a limited edition collection with them, which I did not end up getting, but Valentina, did you ever end up buying the lip gloss?
No, I didn't. And I kind of wish I did just for the sake of it. But I did get the Brazilian Kit Kats that had all of the Arcane cast's faces on them. So,
Oh, I remember. Valentina brought it to work, and I was really appreciative of it. I still have a picture.
okay, I hate to sound like I'm glazing, but I just think Arcane, like League of Legends, just a master class of expanding beyond your platform. Because even if you look beyond the Arcane soundtrack, which is huge in and of itself, I think the theme song has more than 1 billion streams on Spotify. Riot Games' involvement in the broader music scene includes groups, like real life groups based off of their in game characters. And to give a little bit of, I guess, a crash course in this, because unfortunately I'm deep in it, KDA was a group that I want to say debuted, I guess, in 2018 and made this huge impact online because it was a collaboration between real musicians that brought to life characters from the game outside of their traditional lore or worlds. So we had Madison Beer, who's an American pop star. Then we had two K-pop idols from G Idol, Jira Burns, and later Lexi Liu. Those are five huge female musicians that make up this international group. And since 2018, they've released a couple of EPs that also feature other musicians. I personally was listening to KDA before I even knew that League of Legends was a video game. And League of Legends has been around for a long time.
No, I completely agree. Never play League. Didn't exactly know what it was, but even I came across KDA, and maybe it's because I was a G Idol stan. but they had such a huge impact outside of the K-pop fandom, I would argue.
Okay, and then to move on to their other genres, because each of these groups have their own theme, I guess. True Damage came a year after G Idol, and it was more of a hip hop group. So you had the rapper from G Idol, Soyeon, Becky G, Kiki Palmer, Duckworth, and Tutmos. I actually don't know if I'm saying that right, but I hope so. Like these songs, I don't know if I mentioned this, these songs are multilingual and they went beyond just the League of Legends player base. You have music in Chinese, Korean, English, and Spanish. So you're reaching and maybe more so reflecting the very diverse audience of people who play this game. Heartsteel was like the latest of these groups, and it was an all boy pop group model, kind of after K pop groups. They released their song right before the League of Legends World Championship final in South Korea. So it was a very fitting time. And this was the same year where Riot tapped New Jeans for the world theme song. So that was like another level of also just going beyond video game. Everyone who was listening to New Jeans heard this song, even if they didn't know it was for League of Legends.
Yeah. I believe Valorant also collabed in some shape or form with Louis Vuitton, but I don't have the exact details on it. So the point here to be made is gaming is more than just gaming. It's a transmedia empire, as you see from the success from adaptations, music, fashion, cosmetics. And it really brings this big question out of why are game adaptations in the real world, in film, in these other areas so successful? And I think a very clear answer here is well, one, they have a huge fan base. As mentioned before, Gen Z either plays games or consume a lot of gaming content on Twitch or YouTube. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I watched Arcane, not because I played League, but simply because I know of League.
Another thing is Gen Z really loves world building and storytelling. From our personal observations, which admittedly is a lot of introspective reflection, we really love lore or the idea that something has layers and a story. We don't want to just know what your product is or what this character is. We want to know where it came from and what it does and why it feels this way or why it does something this way.
Agreed. But I think another good example of how Gen Z is very entrenched in world building or loving like random lore is Floptropica. So if you spent enough time on TikTok, you know of this amazing country known as Floptropica that is essentially made up of internet in air quotation flops and also a healthy dose of rain rot. I know Valentina wants to shout out Jaffe, but essentially this concept of a Floptropica is a fake nation with a government system. They have an official website. You can go on and apply for citizenship. I think they have different states that you can live in. Like Deborah Ali Williams is the president. I don't personally know who that is, but the VP is my girl Jaffe. And I think Trisha Paytas is recently appointed the Secretary of Defense. So it's this random culmination of internet characters, if you will, and make it into this world that makes sense. I don't know exactly how to articulate this, but Valentina, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to take a couple minutes to read some excerpts from the Floptropica wiki that might help contextualize things, and I apologize if I'm not able to do it without laughing. So, Floptropica, officially the United Kingdom of Floptropica and other governed territories, was founded by the founding mothers and is a tropical island known for many positive reviews from flops. The official language of Floptropica is Floppa, and they use the floppy alphabet, but there's also a Floptropican sign language. The currency of Floptropica is a Flopflorin, and the date of formation is May 3rd, 1764. More than 2 million people are part of the population of Floptropica. And if you want to look at historical events, Floptropica has had 5 Badissi wars. That's where I'm going to call it. But if you're interested in learning more, you can just Google Floptropica. It's quite an interesting internet phenomenon.
Yeah, and it only goes on to show how Gen Z really loves lore, even if it's made up by ourselves, and having this shared common knowledge, because I feel like in a sense it forms like an in-group, like an insider language that no other people can understand, and that makes it cool. And I think it also functions as like a social currency in a sense. Bringing it back to gaming, no more Floptropica, but I encourage everyone to look it up. When Arcane was at its peak, I wouldn't say at its peak, but when it was really popular, when it was still coming out with new episodes, there was like a TikTok trend called JB or JB Not, but also this phrase called Victor Nation, how are we feeling? Okay, before I get into this next part, please be aware there are spoilers for season 2 of Arcane and maybe season 1. So essentially, season 2 of Arcane left us on a cliffhanger when Jace basically came out of the blue after disappearing for maybe an episode or two and killed Victor, leaving all of us stunned and confused. And then on the whole internet basically changed their profile picture into Jace with either a green check on his face, a question mark, or a red X to kind of voice their views on what Jace had done, if it's justifiable. Are they still waiting to see if he can be redeemed? And it was this crazy internet moment to the point where Riot on their official Instagram account also changed their picture to kind of follow that cultural conversation. Essentially, during that time of the internet, you really had to watch Arcane to understand and stay in the loop with these conversations, or else you'll go on TikTok and start getting confused on why is this random man on everyone's profile picture.
And beyond understanding kind of like what's going on in the cultural mainstream, I feel like it's also important for lifestyle brands and major companies to kind of understand the nuances of video game mechanics to tap into Gen Z and even other cohorts.
I don't know if you have this experience, Valentina, but just to illustrate how lifestyle brands have kind of used gaming mechanisms to incorporate into their strategy and engaging with Gen Zs, I need to bust out my Snapchat story from high school. At one point in my life, I used Snapchat and I have reached 1,000 plus in streaks. It was totally random, unnecessary. I basically sent completely blacked out pictures to this random person who may have been a brother of a friend, don't even know him, and we continued it for 1,000 days. And there were no meanings to it, but we just kept doing it because we have reached 1,000. That was a level of commitment I was not ready to let go of.
Yeah, I actually do have something similar because you put me on to Fable, which is, for listeners who don't know, like a book tracking app, kind of like Goodreads, but not totally like Goodreads. Pardon my super bad explanation. But I think January 11th is the day I started my reading streak. And now, even on the days when I'm busiest and most tired, I read at least one page so that I can say, I read today. And it feels like I'm cheating myself or cheating the system if I only read one page. But I tell myself that at least it's a habit that I'm building. And I think by this point, similar to you, I don't want to lose my, I don't know, 150 or my 200-day streak because it's so easy to read just one or two pages. Okay, maybe I should go do like a master's in psychology so I can come back to the podcast and have like nuanced takes. But I really think there's something to be said about how these things like streaks activate the reward center of our brains and kind of play into this human nature of being averse to loss. For our cases, it's almost like sunk cost fallacy.
While sunk cost fallacy definitely brought back psychology class memories. It also has to do with the fact that a large portion of Gen Z have played games at some point of our lives, and we're very familiar with these ideas of leveling up or collecting all the achievements or collecting the gold coins that maybe unknowingly we play into this, I guess, streak mechanism because we've always done it, if that makes sense.
I also think Creating streaks, and if not streaks, then the illusion of some kind of progress, motivates habitual behavior. And that being said, it can kind of be this double edged sword, which, by the way, tangent, I don't like that phrase because you would have to have a double sided sword for it to be harmful. So maybe I have it wrong. But that being said, losing or breaking a streak or having your points reset can really take away any motivation you have to keep going. I think building a habit takes a lot more work than losing one or getting rid of one. So obviously, if you're going on really strong and you're like, okay, I have a 365-day reading streak, you miss one day, suddenly it doesn't mean as much to you anymore. It's like, oh, it's just one day. Oh, it's just 2 days. Like, I don't feel like getting back into that groove. Because I think at some point, instead of the habit itself being rewarding, like the act of reading, it becomes more rewarding to see that number go up or to see that progress bar go a little bit further towards your final goal. Jackie Silverman did a study about this. I recommend reading. That's kind of where I'm pulling a few of these terms from, but it's a pretty interesting idea. I also think gamification makes processes that are normally quite mundane or maybe complicated more compelling, and it helps hold the interest of the people who are engaging with your website interface or with your product or service. So it's a little silly, but hey, I will take a free drink or a free shot of coffee in my drink any day.
Me three. Oh, wait, who's the third person? Me too.
I'm going to keep that in.
Please do.
To think of like a few specific examples, Duolingo is one that both Hebe and I aligned on right away because it's maybe the most prominent online. So much so that it has kind of become a shitpost for that owl to come hunting you down if you miss your streak or if you don't build your streak with them.
So I have a really funny story related to Duolingo and how well they did their gamification features to get people to learn and also engage with the app. But I had a college roommate who was trying to learn Swedish on Duolingo after watching this Netflix series called Young Royals. And she was in this weird competitive situation with this random other Swedish learner who is trying to get number one in ranking every night on Duolingo. It means absolutely nothing. Whether or not you're number one or number two, you're still learning Swedish. But this idea of ranking and gaming is so second nature to us that it would result in behaviors like that. Oh my God, I'm sounding like a psychologist.
I also have had my fair share of experience with Duolingo, but maybe a more niche or unknown example, because I don't know how many people have used this platform. iExcel is how I learned to do math in elementary and middle school because the more lessons that you did, the more rewards you unlocked for your spaceship, because each player had a spaceship that they could decorate with like furniture and wallpaper, other little trinkets. So I would be so addicted to this that I would go back and I would do like, let's say I was in seventh grade, I would do the preschool and the kindergarten level math just so I would get more points. And I had so much fun with that.
No, I was gonna say I used iExcel too,
Oh my God,
and
really?
maybe it's a common platform for everyone to use, but I did what you did. Oh, I went back to the easier levels lessons to gain more points. So you're definitely not alone. Trying to cheat the system. Cheat code. All that to say, video games are only getting bigger, and video games aren't just video games anymore. People are purchasing, playing, and watching video games for sure, but video games are also making an impact on culture in perhaps unexpected ways. They have found their way into music, film, TV, cosmetics, fashion, name an industry, there's probably a video game involvement in it. And Gen Z presents a special case, as most of us grew up surrounded by video games and increasing gamification by brands and companies.
So, brands, marketers, fellow Gen Zers, here's a few things that we are begging you to keep in mind moving forward. First, don't underestimate video games or stick to an outdated perception of what video games and video game players are like. These franchises and their fandoms are passionate, dedicated, and loyal. There are creators in these spaces who build such strong relationships with their supporters that could really align with your brand or service if it needed to. Second, video games are, like Hebe said, a lot more than just pixels on a gaming console or a PC. There are characters and storylines that you can bring to life with your brand in a way that is authentic and exciting for both your consumers and the consumers of the video games. And lastly, gamification is a pretty fun word, but it's also a very useful concept in marketing, and I don't think you need two 23-year-olds to tell you that. Streaks or things like that are really motivating, and people like to get rewarded for their behaviors. If you have fun with it, chances are you can also get your consumers to have fun with it too.
No, Valentina, you always eat with these recaps. So, with that, let us close out with our weekly highlights that we have not done for quite a while.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize until we were like rounding these up how long it's been since we've done this. Biggest elephant in the room, perhaps, is Taylor Swift announcing her 12th album and the subsequent orange revolution on the internet. We did it. Everyone else did it. Poppy, Olipop, obviously Dunkin'. Trying to think of other brands that I saw go orange, but
Bearbell?
Bear Bells did it too. Oh my gosh, everyone made themselves orange. Bubbly did it. I feel like we could do an entire episode about Taylor Swift's marketing style, Taylor Swift lore, world building.
We can. I think her style of marketing is really interesting. Because you either really like her or really hate her.
But regardless of how you feel about her or her music, I feel like you have to be able to acknowledge that she thinks so much. Maybe it's because she's such a veteran in this industry, but oh my god, everything she does is so intentional. But, anyways.
It's like unavoidable, even if you're not her fan. Anyways, what I'm bringing to the table is probably something less serious and less legitimate for marketing, but more so brain rot that I've been seeing on TikTok lately, which is Hugh Jackman impersonations. If you don't know what this is, go on TikTok, search up Hugh Jackman singing, and then come back out and then type in Hugh Jackman impersonations. The internet has been laughing over these series of TikToks of this random guy who I don't know what his deal is, but he has been singing in Hugh Jackman's style on various songs like Die Pepsi by Addison Rae, maybe even Chaperone. I think I saw that one too, but it's hilarious. Go check it out.
Guys, remember when I said that we bring Cat's Eye up in every episode? Sorry, I got a little bit carried away. Um, Cat's Eye is collaborating with Jollibee. If you've never tried Jollibee, it's a Filipino fried chicken chain. You need to get yourself to Jollibee to try it. Gnarly mentions fried chicken. Seamless integration of their brands, like really fun and exciting.
I also have a food and beverage example, which is Hey Tea in New York City is pushing out another BOGO deal, which happens to be today, the time of filming, because Lisa recently popularized their matcha drinks. And so they have been experiencing insane long lines. And I guess they're trying to use this as like a nod, as gratitude for Lisa for doing that. But I would love to stand in line to try out their new matcha drinks, but it's long.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of Let's Circle Back. Please consider following us on our Instagram or LinkedIn pages to keep up with our latest content. Or, if you like, feel free to reach out to us via email with any questions or suggestions for future episodes. We have been your hosts. I'm Valentina.
And I'm Hebe, and
And
we'll
we'll
see
see
you
you
next
next
time.
time.
Woohoo!
Yay!